Pink Poodle Crafts, join the Poodle Pack. It's time to get creative and make you laugh. Make your own art today. Pink Poodle Crafts is the way.
What a good boy. Hey crafty family, it's me. And today we are going to make our third little friend. And this is the little mummy. In order to make this mummy, you are going to need some sort of gauze of some sort, whether it's like gauze or just some sort of fabric that looks like gauze, that can look like it could go with a mummy. Now this stuff here is from a dollar store, and I think I already had some pulled out. I thought I did anyway. What did I do with it? Hold on. Did I lose it? I thought I already had some pulled out. Maybe I don't. But either way, you can take some and cut it like so. And now what I did was I took a little tea stain and I wanted to kind of dirty it up a little bit so it looked more traditionally like you know, like gauze is not 100% like clean looking when you put it on a creature or a person, but you know, it's a mummy, so mummies are dirty and they've been laying in the dirt for years, so you know, it's got to look like a mummy. So I did that, and then I dried it. So let's dry this. You got to be careful because some gauzes will, like that, especially this is elastic gauze. It's kind of elasticy. It might melt a little bit, so just be careful when you're drying it to keep the heat at a good distance. Okay, good enough. Once you got it pretty dry, now I'm going to cut this because this is a little wide. I'm going to cut it into strips, into 3. I can get 3 strips out of this because you don't want them to be too wide because they're not going on a human. They're going on a piece of paper that's shaped like a head, so it's got to be a little bit more in proportion to what it's going on, because if you wrapped gauze around your own head, it wouldn't be this thin, right? But it also wouldn't be, you know, 9 inches wide. It would be proportionate like gauze is. Like gauze for us would be about that wide if we were going to wrap it around our head. But because we're wrapping around this, I mean, it could even, honestly, it could probably be a lot smaller. But for the sake of it not falling apart, we don't want to trim it down too much. But we want it to look a little realistic, is my point. So now you got your dirty gauze, which this one I didn't dirty up enough. I got it somewhat dirty, but I could have done a better job. This time I think I got it a little better. So now we're going to make a circle, and I'm going to use this because it doesn't matter. Use anything, any kind of circular thing, or just cut it out blindly. That's fine too. It don't matter. I'm just giving myself a rough circle. Just something like that. Doesn't have to be perfection, because we're going to trim it down anyway. It's going to start out as more of a circle, and then we're going to kind of trim it down to a face shape after we get it cut out. So it's very circular, and you know, nobody's face is this circular. As you can see, this one is kind of tapered down. So we're going to like start somewhere, and we're going to taper it into more of a face shape We're getting there. So more like an egg-shaped, upside-down egg. So that's more, see, that's more like it. So that gives it a little bit more of a realistic kind of face shape. And so now we can start adding our gauze. And for the first go around, we just start adding gauze to cover up the paper. So I used hot glue and my little Santa's Helper spatula, any kind of silicone spatula you can help pat down the glue with. So I started by putting some glue and then putting some gauze. And it doesn't have to be super neat or anything. And then I kind of, and this is a little stretchy, so I was able to kind of pull it to wrap like so. And then I just started wrapping it like this top here. I'm going to push it down a little bit because it's a little making the head look a little square, which can happen. So I folded that over. Hopefully you're able to see what I'm doing. Basically, I'm just wrapping it in, wrapping the paper in gauze, really. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the back side as long as it looks decent on the front side. And if you skip an area, if it ends up going over and not going over well, you can do what I just did here and fold it up in the back, which will then bring you up a little bit further, or just go straight around and then come back around. So either way, just as long as you get a layer on that's not like super thick, because you don't want it to be, the first layer to be like real thick. You just want it to be one piece, you know, deep, like one piece. You don't want it to overlap and overlap and overlap and overlap 1,000 times. And then I'll have this piece just go across here. You don't want to use big gulps of glue, just use, you know, don't use big globs of it, in other words, just keep it thinned out a little bit. And then we'll use the next piece and continue. And now sometimes I'll leave out like that. I'm going to leave that sticking out, which will give it that kind of like the ends are coming out. Now you could do that a little bit more than I do, or a little bit less, you know, as much as you want. This is going to be the front, by the way, so I'm not worried about covering the back completely. I'm more worried about making sure the front is nice and covered. And then we'll go over here and cover this up. And then I'll go back here. And I'll go here. And sometimes you got to use the glue to help you manipulate where you're going to put your next piece so that it stays where you want it to be. Like I want it to go across like that, so if I glue it at a certain angle, it'll work better than if I let it kind of go willy-nilly. Now I'm going to cut this off here, and sometimes if it's stretchy it get a little bit of and I'll leave. You're going to get all these little pieces frayed all over the place. That's just going to happen. Now I've got the first part done. Now we put on our eyes, and for that I got some googly eyes that I was sent, and the smallest ones I believe are the purple ones. So I'm going to try to get 2 more of those, because otherwise I think it would be too big if I used any other size. So I'm going to get those. And I have some other googly eyes somewhere, but I don't know where they are. Are these same size? Yeah. Now googly eyes have plastic on the back, so sometimes it's better to use like Fabri-Tac glue. I'm going to risk it and use this, but I wouldn't. If you don't want your googly eyes to potentially get messed up, I would just be careful. Because googly eyes, like I said, are plastic, so they don't google as much initially because of these ones google more now, but because of the heat of the hot glue, they lose a little bit of their google. They lose their google. So then for a mouth, I'm going to use a piece of the same thing that I used for the scarecrow mouth, which is a piece of suede. You can use yarn, whatever you want. You can use anything you want for a mouth. I'm just going to make a little mouth, like a little happy mouth. It's a happy mummy. He's a very happy little mummy. So we're going to put his little mouth on. And I'm not going to put a nose on him. He's got a crooked smile. Come on. There we go. Good enough. And now we're gonna, now he looks fine just like that, but in order to give him that kind of wrapped look, now you go back over it with some more gauze. And this is where you like wrap it close above his eyes so that, you know, so that it really looks like, he's wrapped, you know, like mummy-ish. And you can leave this sticking out. It might get a little, you're going to get a lot of frays with this stuff. But then you can go back around and wrap it. Whoop. Hot glue. Getting burnt by hot glue. And then go back around, which I probably moved that too much, but back around over his face like that to give him the other, that other kind of wrapped look above and below his eyes. And then you could do the same thing around his mouth to give him that wrapped look. That needs a little glue right there, doesn't it? Yes, it does. These strings on this stuff is kind of sucky. Probably regular gauze would be better. There you go. And now if you have too much gauze showing in any area, like here I've got 2 pieces, I don't need 2 pieces sticking out. We can cut off some of that like so. And it's going to fray a bit, so be prepared for that. And cut off a little bit of this, cut off a little bit of that, and there we go. There's our mummy. Very cute. And I'm just gonna clean up this. So that's how you make the little mummy. Very cute, very easy. And if you have regular gauze, like people gauze won't be quite as frayed as this stuff, but this is like the dollar store stuff that was for the Halloween. So there's our little gauzy mummy. So now we have our gauzy mummy, we have our Frankenstein, and we have our scarecrows. Aha, very cute, aren't they? So cute. I love them. They're just adorable. So, in the next video, I'm going to show you how we're going to use these in a card that I'm going to make. It's kind of, you know, going to be just a cute card, and we're going to use some of our little characters. But you can use these for anything. I mean, you can stick a magnet on them, put them on your fridge. Like I said in the last video with the Frankenstein, you can do anything with these. Stick them on an ATC. I don't know if they'd fit. If you make them small enough, they will. Stick them on a postcard. Stick them in a, you know, anything. You can just make cutesy little characters and even use them as trick-or-treat gifts, you know. Put them in little baggies and give them out instead of candy. Anything you want. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And if you aren't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe. I'd appreciate that as well. And also, if you are not in my Facebook group, I have a Facebook group, and the link to that is in the description below this video. You'll see a description box. And in there, if you hit show more, it'll show you all the links and everything that's under there, which will give you access to my Facebook group. I have a Patreon, which is a way to support my channel. And in turn, you'll get classes and free art that's sent to you every month and all kinds of fun stuff. So check that out. And also there'll be links to my group and my Etsy shop where I have a few things listed. So take a few minutes to check those things out. I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Make sure you do what you love and love what you do and be nice to people. And I will talk to you later. Bye, Mommy.